What I'd like to do now is record a simple macro, and this macro is to format the selected cells into currency in 0 decimal places. First of all, I'd like to open a file, so I'm going to go to File in the ribbon, and then I'm going to click Open. And I need to locate a file called Budget, and open up the budget file. I'd like to press the shortcut key F12, which is Save As. I'm going to save this file as Chapter 1. Notice also that this file is a macro-enabled workbook, so it's set up to hold macros, and I'll click Save. I'm then going to select a certain group of cells, and I'd like to select D7 to F8. In these particular cells, I'm going to record a macro to automatically format them to currency in 0 decimal places. To record a macro, on the Developers tab in the ribbon and in the Code group, I'm going to click the Record Macro button. When it comes to recording a macro, it's important to give the macro a name that doesn't include spaces. So I'm going to call this macro Format Currency. I can assign a shortcut key, but I won't at this stage. I'd also like to store this macro in this workbook, so it only works in this workbook. And if I wanted to, I could give it a description, but I won't bother. When I click OK, I'm now recording a macro. This is indicated by a little blue square in the bottom left of my status bar, and also by a little blue square saying Stop Recording in my Developers tab. So anything I do now is being recorded. To format the selected cells to currency, I'm going to click the Home tab. I'm going to click the General drop down, and I'll go into More Number Formats. Of course, there's more than one way to do this. I'm just doing it this way. I'd like to choose currency and 0 decimal places and click OK. And that's formatted the selected cells into currency in 0 decimal places. To stop recording, I'm going back to the Developers tab in my ribbon, and I'll click the Stop Recording button. I'd like to save the file, so I'm just going to press Ctrl S, which saves Chapter 1, and the fact that it now contains a macro. In order to run my macro, I'll select a different group of cells, so I'll select D9 to F10. If I want to apply the macro or run the macro, on the Developers tab in the Code group, I'll click the Macros button. When I click the Macros button, I can see the macro Format Currency that I just recorded, and I have the option to run it. When I click Run, those cells will be formatted to currency in 0 decimal places. And it's worked. When I recorded the macro, I didn't assign a shortcut key, and often we don't because our focus is on recording the macro. But at a later date, we may want to assign a shortcut key to a macro. For example, I'm going to select another range, D11 to F12, actually D11 to F13. And then I'm going to go back to the Macros button, which is in the Code group on the Developers tab, and I'm going to click the Options button. The Options button enables you to add a shortcut key to a macro after you've recorded the macro. Now when you assign a shortcut key to a macro, you have to include the Control key. You can't exclude it. So I'm going to add to the Control key that I want Shift-C. So I just press Shift-C, and now Control-Shift-C has been assigned to that macro. If I then click OK and click Cancel, I can test the key combination by pressing the key combination Control-Shift-C. And that's automatically formatted the selected cells to currency in 0 decimal places. If you wanted to try another range, just simply select different ranges in your spreadsheet and try Control-Shift-C to run your macro. I'm going to save the workbook, Ctrl-S, and we've recorded and run a simple macro.